Hello and welcome to another edition of Library Yoga and Meditation with me, Jane Stimson, librarian from the LSC Sci-Fair Library. Pleased to bring you all of our events online this semester. So for tonight's class, we're going to be taking a little bit more of a slower paced class. We're going to start out active with about 10 to 15 minutes of activity and flow. And then we're going to slow it down and do more of a yin restorative type of practice. So if you were hoping for a practice where you're moving a lot throughout the hour, I would go back and do the class from 2 weeks ago. That's all sun salutations. Otherwise, to get ready for tonight's class, I want you to go ahead and grab a few props. So you can pause the video and come on back. So first thing you might want to grab is a blanket. And by the way, props are all totally optional. Okay? So you might want to grab a blanket and have it folded. We're going to be starting and ending practice with a brief sit in meditation. So sometimes it's nice to sit up on a little something. It also can be really nice during our rest pose at the end of class to cover yourself with a blanket and really get into that rest pose. So blanket. The other optional props you might want to have for this evening are a couple of blocks. You can also use big fat books if you have those. I like blocks. You can usually find these for pretty cheap at places like Marshalls and TJ Maxx, places like that. And then the last prop you may want to have this evening is a bolster or a couple of pillows. So this is a yoga bolster. It's specifically made to prop you up during some of those relaxing poses. Mine is a really big bolster. They do make smaller ones, but if you don't have a bolster, that's okay. You could grab a couple of pillows or maybe even a couple more blankets. Okay, so again, props are totally optional, but they are nice options to help prop us up and really sink into some relaxing poses a little bit more. So blanket, a couple of blocks or a couple of books, and a bolster or a couple of pillows. Okay, so we're going to start in meditation. So if you do have a blanket or a block and you want to sit up on a little bit of height to help you sit, go ahead and grab that. I'm going to sit up on my blanket this evening. You could also just roll up the back of your mat and sit on your rolls. It's up to you. But sometimes just that little extra couple of inches of height do help the hips sit more easily in our meditation. So I invite you to take a comfortable sit, whatever that means for you this evening. For me, it's a really simple crossed leg. And then just go ahead and rest hands, palms down on your knees or your thighs. And we're going to take a second to sit tall. So extending the crown of the head towards the sky. Pull the waist out of the hips. Pull the rib cage out of the waist. And the gaze is straight ahead. You can either keep the eyes just softly open, not trying to peer out sharply, or you can gently close your eyes. That's your choice. Whatever eye position you've chosen, eyes are soft, the shoulders are loose, and the belly is full and easy, so just letting that belly go. Just taking a few breaths here to transition into the time and space of our practice this evening. So taking a moment to really feel what your body feels like sitting on your mat. Taking a moment to check in with your body, maybe doing a guided body scan. Seeing what feels open tonight, what feels maybe a little bit tense or a little bit tight. Just noticing what feels strong, what might need a little extra attention as you move this evening. And just making extraordinary allowances to let this practice feel good for you this evening. And then taking a moment to check in with our breath, not trying to breathe in any particular way at this moment, but just coming into a natural breath, letting the body breathe itself. Noticing if the breath feels smooth and long and deep. If we're still carrying some tension from our day or our week in the breath. And then without getting into a whole pranayama practice or anything like that, just doing what you need to do to see if you can smooth out the breath. Try and take a little bit longer, a little bit deeper breaths. Just as we sit, as we transition into our practice, just taking those really important moments to check in with the body and check in with the breath. And let those be our guide for the next hour or so together. Great. All right. So gently closing the eyes if they're not already closed. Bringing the hands to touch in front of your heart. Bow your head. Drop your hands. And gently blink the eyes open and come back center. All right. So we are going to get into stretchy yin restorative goodness, I promise you, but sometimes it's really nice to start out with some activity in yin practice. So that's what we are going to do tonight. So go ahead and unroll your mat or move your blanket if you had rolled those up, and then come into a tabletop position. Wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And we're just going to start out with some cat-cow this evening. So on your next inhale, drop the belly, look up for cow. And on your exhale, round the back, tuck the chin to the chest for cat, pressing into the mat with the hand. And just going back and forth. So inhaling to cow. Exhale, push the mat away with your hands, hollow out for cat. If you want to start to bring a little back and forth movement with this, you can sort of shift forward on the cows and then shift back towards your heels on the cat. So just doing whatever you need to do to make your cat and cow feel really good for you tonight. Taking a few more rounds with your own breath and your own time. And then if you were shifting back and forth, come back to your stable tabletop position. We're going to take one more cat-cow and then turn that into down dog. So inhale, cow. And exhale, cat, round the back, and then tuck the toes and lift the knees and hips up and back to downward facing dog. So letting that cat momentum turn you into down dog. Now bend the knees one at a time, walk out the dog, stretch your calves and hamstrings. Pressing down and away with the hands, fingertips spread wide. Spine is long, hips are shifting back. And then as you're ready, without rushing, 2 straight legs. And then bending the knees as much as you like. Slowly walk the feet forward towards your hands. When you get there, you can just dangle the hands, really bend the knees, let the torso drape over the thighs. Or you can grab opposite elbow and gently sway from side to side. Taking a moment here in the forward fold. And then releasing the elbows and slowly rolling up, one vertebrae at a time. Head stays bowed. Shoulders roll back, and then the head comes up last. Getting all three cats in here today. All right. So we are going to do a little standing flow series, and as always, we're going to start off with a few half salutations, linking breath with movement. So taking your mountain pose at the top of the mat, gaze is straight ahead, tailbone slightly tucked, shoulders melting down the back. Exhale everything. And then inhale, your arms will rise. Exhale, bend the knees and fold forward. Inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway, flat back. And exhale, refold, rebending the knees if that felt good. Inhale, press the feet into the earth, rise to a stand, arms rise, look, see your hands. And exhale, hands return either to prayer position or by your side, whichever arm variation you like. Take a couple more half salads. Inhale, the arms rise. Exhale, bend the knees and fold. Inhale, hands to shins, lift halfway, crown of the head forward. Exhale, bend the knees, refold. Inhale, rise strongly. Exhale, hands return. Last half salutation. As you're ready, inhale, arms will rise. As you exhale, bend the knees as much as you like, fold forward. On your inhale, flatten the back, thighs back. Exhale, bend, fold forward. And inhale, last time, rising strongly to a stand. Maybe you take a little tiny back bend at the top. And exhale, hands return. All right, we're going to take a lunge salutation. We practiced these last class. Reset your mountain pose. Exhale everything. And on your inhale, arms rise. On your exhale, bend the knees and fold. On your inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway, flat back. Exhale, refold, right foot takes a big step back. Left knee stays over left heel. We take an inhale here in our lunge, back heel driving back. And then on our exhale, plant the hands flat. Step the front foot back to meet the back one. We're in downward facing dog for a breath or two. Inhale. And then we come out the way we came in. So on your exhale, right foot steps forward between the hands. Come up onto fingertips. Inhale, take your inhale in your lunge. And then on your exhale, step the left foot forward to meet the right one. Inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway, flat back. Exhale, bend the knees and fold. Inhale, plant the feet strongly and rise. Exhale, hands return. We'll go ahead and take the other side. As you're ready, inhale, arms rise. Exhale, bend the knees and fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway, flat back. Exhale, refold, and as you do, left foot steps back. Inhale here in your lunge, chest forward, gaze forward, fingertips tented. Exhale, plant the hands, step right foot back, downward facing dog. If you need to reset the feet once you go back to dog, that's totally fine. Inhale. On your exhale, left foot steps forward between the hands, and if it takes a couple steps to bring it there, no worries. Inhale here in the lunge, gaze straight ahead, fingertips tented. Exhale, right foot steps forward to meet the left. On our inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway, flat back. Exhale, refold. And on your inhale, press the feet into the earth to help you rise. Exhale, hands return. Just for a moment, bring hands, palms together, fingertips spread wide. Connect the thumb to your breastbone. And look down and gaze at the fingertips for a couple of breaths. And release. All right, we're going to take one last lunging salutation, and we're going to add a few more standing poses onto that. So reset your mountain pose. When you're ready, inhale, the arms rise. Exhale, bend the knees and fold forward. Inhale, hands to the shins, lifting halfway, flat back. Exhale, fold, right foot takes a step back. Inhale here in the lunge. And then on your exhale, right heel pivots down towards the mat. Cartwheel the arms up and into your warrior two shape. So take a second if you need to reset your feet to make your stance longer or shorter, go for it. Back foot should be parallel with the back edge of the mat. Front knee should be directly over that front ankle. Arms spread wide, gaze out over those left middle fingertips. And do what you need to do to put more weight in that back leg and back hand so we're not sinking most of our weight in the front. Try and balance them. A couple more breaths here in Warrior Two. Thinking about the torso just extending up from those hips. So torso, upper body is light and airy, and our legs are really weighty and grounded here. Good. Inhale here in Warrior Two. Exhale. On your next inhale, straighten this front leg. Step the back foot in just a little bit. And then exhale, reach for the front of your mat. When you can reach no further, bring that left hand down somewhere to the floor, the shin. You can even grab one of your blocks here for triangle pose. Actually, that feels really nice with the blocks. Whatever you have this bottom hand down on, it should be able to rest firmly enough on it that you can press that bottom hand down and feel the right side of your chest opening towards the right side of your mat, and that right arm just flies high, triangle pose. Okay, now we're going to come up, so we're going to need our core strength for this. So on your next inhale, gently bend that front knee, and then come all the way back up to your Warrior Two. And on your next exhale, drop the right hand back to the right thigh, left palm faces up, and we lean back for our reverse warrior. Really feeling the left side ribs open like a fan here. Inhale where you are. And then exhale, cartwheel hands down to either side of that front foot. Move a block if you have it. Come off that back heel, so we're back here in our lunge. And then however you want to get down to the mat, you can either bring the back knee down and the front knee to meet it, or you can just plank all the way down. But coming down onto our bellies, flip the toes, so tops of the feet rest on the mat. Hands underneath the shoulders, fingertips spread wide. Hug the elbows in. And on your inhale, press the tops of the feet and the hands into the earth. Rise to a baby cobra. Exhale, belly down. and press it back to downward facing dog. So you can go through tabletop, or you can flip the toes and come up through plank, your choice. But downward facing dog for a moment. Remember, we came out the way we came in, so inhaling here. And on your exhale, right foot steps forward between the hands. Inhale here in the lunge, looking straight ahead, chest is open. And then exhale, left foot steps forward to meet the right. Inhale, lift halfway, flat back. Exhale, refold. Inhale, arms rise to a stand. Exhale, hands return. Nice. Take the other side of that salutation. Reset your mountain pose. And when you're ready, inhale, the arms rise. Exhale, fold forward, knees can bend as much as we like. Inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway, flat back. Exhale, refold, left foot steps back, left heel pivots down, cartwheel the arms up into our warrior two, making sure that this front shin is vertical. We are putting weight into the pinky toe edge of our back foot to help us be stable here. Few breaths here in our warrior two shape. Knowing that this work we're doing to heat up the body is going to be really useful when we start to stretch it out in our second half. Good. On your next inhale, inhale that front leg straight. Step the back foot in, maybe just one step. And then exhale, reach with your right hand, kick that left hip back. When you can reach no further, bring that right hand down to the mat or the leg or a block. Maybe you feel that nice hip pop that I just heard. Love that thing. Letting the left side of the chest be open. And gaze can be up towards those left fingers, or if that doesn't feel great on the neck, gaze can just be straight ahead, your choice. Good. One more breath in triangle. And then on your next inhale, gently bend into that front knee. Use your core strength to bring you up to that warrior two. And then drop the back hand, back thigh. Top palm faces up and back. Lean back for your reverse warrior. Inhale here. And then on your exhale, release. Cartwheel the hands down either side of the front foot, coming off that back heel. And again, however you wanted to get there, whether knees down or through plank, coming onto your belly. Flip the toes. This time we're going to take a locust pose. So hands long by your sides. Gaze is down towards the mat. And on your next inhale, lift arms and legs off the mat, pressing the pressing the pelvis bone down. Back of the neck is long, gazing down at the front of your mat. Take an inhale, try and lift those limbs using your back muscles. And then exhale, come all the way down. Press it back to a child's pose. Coming out the way we came in, gazing forward at the fingertips, coming into your tabletop, tucking the toes, lifting the knees up and back, downward facing dog. Let's take a breath or two in dog. Inhaling where you are. Exhale, left foot steps forward between the hands. Inhale here in the lunge, collarbone wide. And then exhale, right foot steps forward to meet the left. Inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway. Exhale, refold. And then inhale, rise all the way to a stand. Exhale, hands return. Okay. We're going to take just a last couple of standing poses before we bring it down to the mat. So turn to one side, doesn't matter which side of your mat you're facing, and bring the feet out wide. We're coming into a wide-legged forward bend. So take a second and look down. Make sure that your toes and heels are in line with each other, that they are facing the same direction. Hands to the hips. Inhale, get the spine really tall. And then exhale, tilt the pelvis forward, so you forward bend, releasing the hands down to the mat. When your hands get to the mat, I want you to inhale and lift up halfway, the way we do in our sun salutations. And then exhale and really release that low back and fold. So if your hands can come down to the mat, try and get those fingertips in line with the toes. And if they don't, this is always a great time. You could grab a block and have hands down on the block, right? Bring the floor to you if your arms don't quite reach. Not cheating, it's smart yoga. And then while you're here in your wide-legged forward bend, let's just release the neck by nodding the head yes a few times. And shaking the head no. And then on your next inhale, coming up to fingertips, lifting up halfway. And then on the exhale, hands to the hips, use your core to stand all the way up. Very nice. And then just release and step up to the mat, or up to the top of the mat. Okay, last little standing pose. Mountain pose at the top of your mat. Inhale, the arms lift. Exhale, the knees bend and fold. Inhale, hands to the shins, lift halfway. Exhale, refold and step one, and then the other foot back into downward facing dog. So take a real comfy down dog. We're just going to do a little extra hip opener here. So bend the right knee, really bend into that right knee, and then shift the hips towards the left knee. Okay, so right knee is bent and the hips are shifting as if they could point towards the left knee and press back. So we should be feeling a nice stretch of the hip here in the back of that left hip. Good. 2 straight legs, and we'll take the other side. So really bend that left knee, and then tilt the pelvis towards the right. If you want to push back with your hands, that'll give you a little bit more stretch. 2 straight legs, take a deep inhale. Take a slow exhale. And then bring both knees to the mat. And come into a tabletop position. Very nice. All right. So now we're going to start more of our yin restorative half of class. So if you don't have your props nearby, you can pause and grab your props. We're going to start with a dragon pose. So we're going to start this in a tabletop, making sure hips are over the knees and shoulders are over the wrists. Bring your right foot in between the hands. And then walk that foot a little bit forward. Hands are going to be on either side of this front foot. And walk it forward until you start to walk it forward, make sure that this front knee is not going past the front heel. And then if you find yourself needing a little bit more stretch, you can sort of walk this back knee back a little bit and then get that back top of foot flat on the mat. So we should be feeling a nice stretch here in the front of the left thigh and the left hip. Now, if you find yourself needing a little extra space here, you can grab your blocks or your books and you can put them to either side of the front foot and rest your hands on the blocks. And that is a great way to practice. Make sure that you're not resting on that back knee capsule. We want that back knee to be back enough so that we're actually more resting sort of on the just above the kneecap, right? So at the bottom of the thigh. And if that still is not feeling great, you can grab your blanket and put it underneath the knees, or you can roll up the edge of your mat and put it underneath your knee, right? So lots of ways to modify this dragon stretch. And just breathing. In yin-style yoga, we hold poses for longer to allow our body to really relax into these postures. So finding our comfortable edge for us. So now we're going to take a second variation of dragon. So bring your right hand to your right hip, and if you need to reset your position here, if you need to bring one knee back in, the back knee back in a little bit, that's totally fine. So I want you to plant your left hand to the inside of the right foot. So imagine that your hand and your foot are about hips width apart. Right hand is to your right hip. Inhale where you are. And then exhale, you can open up this right knee out to the side by coming onto the pinky toe edge of that right foot. Now, if you want, you can use this right hand. I know I said put it on your hip, but you can actually put it onto the thigh and sort of push your right thigh away from you with that right hand. Just making sure that that front foot stays flexed, so those toes are active. And then bringing this right knee back in, planting your hands, flip the back toes, walk the back knee in real quick, and then bring this front knee back to meet the back one. We're going to take a child's pose between dragon sides. So sit back into your child's pose. And if you're like me, you can probably feel that this left hip is super stretched and you're feeling really uneven. We're going to even it up in just a minute, don't worry. Good. All right, so when you're ready, let's grab that other side of dragon by coming back into our tabletop position. And this time we are bringing the left foot in between our hands. We are walking this back knee back till we feel a nice stretch in our right hip, front of the right thigh, making sure that we're not right on that back knee capsule, but we're either bringing a blanket or folding up our mat underneath to make it more comfortable if it's not already. So once again, in our first dragon pose, we're just going to have hands to either side of this front foot. Gaze can be forward. And following the breath here. Actually, I'm going to bring my blocks back. Remember that hands can be down on blocks or on the mat. I find it really comfortable to practice this with blocks. Even though I have fairly long arms, still nice to bring the floor closer to me. Just following and checking in with the breath here. Sometimes I have trouble with yin yoga because I don't want to say I get bored, but I get bored holding poses for that long. So for me, it's a constant good reminder to be focusing on the breath. So if you're finding your mind starting to wander in these longer held yin poses, totally normal. Come back to the breath. You're hitting the breath. Good. Okay, so we are going to take our other variation. So if this right hand is already about hips distance from the left foot, you can leave that right hand where it is. You can bring this left hand either to the hip or to the inside of the knee, because what we're going to do now is open up, come onto the pinky toe edge of that left foot, open up the knee to the side, and twist. So chest faces the left knee. Sorry if your concentration was just broken by the sound of two of my cats having a little fight. And then slowly coming back in, using your hand to bring that right knee back in, removing your block, both hands down to the mat, and then bringing this front knee back to meet the back one, and sinking all the way back into a wide knees child's pose. So front big toes touch, knees go wide, chest snuggles down to the mat, child's pose. And then when you're ready, not rushing at all, come up to a tabletop and make your way to seated. We're going to take a caterpillar pose. So caterpillar is like Paschimottanasana that we do a lot, but so in this one, legs don't have to be right together. They can be out in sort of like a slim little V, or they can be together. But we don't have to keep the feet flexed and the legs engaged. In caterpillar, we can just kind of let the feet flop to the sides and really relax that. So hands can be between the legs or by your sides. Take a second, inhale, get tall. And then on your exhale, round the back and curl it down. So normally in Paschimottanasana, what we tend to do is really extend the spine and try and bring the chest as close to the legs as we can. But in this one, it's more of a rounding action of the back, more of a relaxed way to do that. Now, I'm not super flexible in this pose, so this doesn't always work for me. But if you can find that you are flexible enough that your head is getting pretty close to the mat, you could even take your blocks one on top of each other and gently rest your forehead, or maybe you don't need two blocks, I need two blocks. And you can gently rest your forehead down. Now, if that messes with you in this pose, if it's just not comfortable, if the blocks don't comfortably meet your body level in whatever configuration, don't mess with it, right? For me, it doesn't quite work, but it might feel really nice to rest and release that forehead down on something if the height works for you. Otherwise, we're just letting the neck and the head really release and soften in our caterpillar pose. I'm going to come out of this, gently, slowly start to walk the hands back towards your hips. And gently, slowly, like we do when we're rolling up from a forward fold, start to roll the vertebrae up one by one. Head stays bowed, head comes up last. Very nice. And then you can gently release this just by sort of moving the feet and the ankles back and forth. Just sort of shake it out a little bit. Nice. Okay. All right, so now we're going to come into a bound angle pose. I'm going to face you for this one. So bringing the soles of the feet together as close or as far away in from the groins as you'd like. Now, if your knees don't really comfortably go down, if one thing you can do is take your blocks and kind of wedge them underneath your thighs, and that's a really nice way to be supported and still get that sort of inner groin, inner thigh stretch that we want. So take a moment, inhale, get tall. You can hold on to feet or ankles, and you can stay right here. Or if you find yourself wanting a little bit more stretch, gently walk the fingertips forward and fold. And this might be another place where if you don't have your blocks underneath your thighs, you might grab them and make yourself a little tower here to gently rest your forehead on. Again, only if it really makes sense for you and your body height. We don't want that to prevent us from going as deep into the stretch as we could. And breathe. So begin to come out of this. On your next exhale, gently, slowly, gently, walk the fingertips back in. And stack up vertebrae by vertebrae till you're upright. Excellent. Okay. So if you have blocks underneath your thighs, you can remove them. We're going to come into a position called deer pose. And this one is really nice to do with a bolster or a couple of pillows. So if you have your bolster or your pillows handy, go ahead and grab those. And place it to your left side. Now, from bound angle, take your right leg and bring it behind you so that this right heel is close into the right glute. The left leg, this front leg, reposition it so that chin is kind of straight across. Now, I see. Now you can also move it in. So I see a lot of people saying in deer pose that our legs should be at 90-degree angles or our knees should be at 90-degree angles. That's pretty intense for this pose. So if knees need to be less than 90 degrees, that's a great way to practice. This is how I practice this pose. So take a second, make sure if you can that you have both sit bones sitting evenly on the earth. It's okay if they're not. They're probably not. My right sit bone is a little bit up off the mat more than my left sit bone. That's okay. Just strive for evenness. All right. So then bring this left bolster a little bit closer to the left hip now. Okay. Hopefully I have this right. All right. So take your right hand on top of the left knee. Bring the left hand behind you. So this is kind of like a combo twist and hip opener you're going to see. So on your inhale, get really tall. And on your exhale, twist to the left. So this is just like every other twist we always do. On your inhales, you were extending the crown of the head a little bit more towards the sky. And on our exhales, we're seeing if we can twist a little further open. Now, this bolster is here because if we want to, we have the option to bring hands to either side of the bolster. Inhale, get tall. And then if you have the flexibility and the space in your hips, you can crawl the hands out and rest that torso on the bolster. And you can rest one head down to one cheek down to the other. Now, you may notice here that your right sits bone is coming up off the mat. That's okay. Again, we sort of want to strive for that right sits bone to hit the mat, but it's all right if it doesn't, right? I'm more concerned with this pose feeling good and opening your hips right now. Now, if this bolster thing is, ooh, that felt nice. If you have one cheek down on the bolster, maybe try resting your other cheek. I got a little bit more twist that way. And frankly, if this bolster thing is just not working for you, just stay upright in the twist. No big deal. All right, now to come out of this, again, slowly, gently walking the hands back towards our hips. And then I want you to think about firming up the lower belly and pressing your hands into the earth to help you rise. And then we're going to come back to center and take the other side. So just for a moment, release that right foot. Just for a moment, bring both feet together. Just flutter the knees up and down if that feels okay. And then we're going to take our bolster and move it over to our right side. Left foot bends behind us, so left heel comes in towards the glute. And rearranging this front foot, maybe to get it a little bit closer to the knee, a little bit more parallel. Good. And again, striving for both sit bones to sit evenly on the earth, and it's okay if that doesn't happen. Left hand, right knee, right hand behind you. Inhale, get tall. Oops, sorry. Snuggle this bolster up to your right hip if you need to. All right. Inhale, get tall. And then exhale, twist open to the right. Noticing if one side is different from the other, they probably are. And you can stay right here in the twist. You don't have to fold down onto that bolster if that's too much hip opening. But if it does feel good, inhale and get tall. And then exhale, walk your hands out on either side of your bolster. Ooh, okay, so I'm going down and already I can feel that's too much for me on this side. So I'm going to stay right up here in my twist. But if you do want to drape your torso over your bolster, rest one cheek on the bolster. Breathe. It's not as easy to find a smooth breath in a twist like this, so try your best. If you have one cheek down on the bolster, go ahead and switch it to the other cheek if that feels all right. And if that felt okay to come out of this, you're going to gently walk those hands back to center. Firm up your lower belly, so really pull that lower belly in and press both hands into the earth to help you rise back up. And then release the twist back in towards the center. Move that bolster out of the way and shift into a child's pose. So in this child's pose again, big toes wide, big toes together, knees wide, release. Forehead down to the mat. And if you are in a child's pose and your forehead doesn't come down to the mat, again, this is a great place to take a block or a book or a pillow and rest your forehead down on that to bring the floor to you. All right. So we're going to start to take our finishing poses here with a frog pose. It's a really lovely hip opener. We're really focusing on hip openers tonight. So I'm going to stay sideways like this so you can see me, but you might want to turn so that you're facing the long edge of your mat for this one. So we're going to prep for frog by coming up into a tabletop position, so making sure everything is squared up. And then we're going to start to walk our knees out to the sides. And what I want to do here is make sure that my knees are straight out from my hips and my ankle is straight out down from my knees. So my knees are forming 90-degree angles here. Okay, now I'm only going to walk them out as far as I can kind of control them. So I don't want them to be slipping away from me. If it feels okay here, we want to come down onto our forearms. And if you need a little bit more stability, you can clasp the hands together and press the forearms into the mat. Now, I want you to make sure here that you're not coming forward too much, that you're really pressing your hips back so that you're feeling a nice stretch again in the inner thigh, inner groin, hips. And if you find yourself needing to make the knees a little bit wider as you're in here, do that. Just be really careful. Don't hit your edge too fast, right? We really want to sink into this with frog. It's an intense pose. Breathing. And then to come out of this, now we are going to scooch forward until we're on our bellies. Nicely done. All right. Turn over onto your back. Now, if you want to go do this up against a wall, that's fine. Take a second to get yourself over to a wall. Or we're just going to do legs up. So one thing you can do here is grab a block. So you can go up to a wall and sit your hips really close to the wall. Stretch both legs up and rest them against the wall. Or you can just do this on your mat where you are. One thing that might feel nice here, if you have a block, and make sure it's kind of a firm block and not one of those super soft, foamy ones. Bring the legs down if you want to try this variation. Lift your hips and bring the block underneath your sacrum, so that kind of flat bony area between your tailbone and your low back. And then once you have it kind of firmly planted under there, then you can go ahead and lift those legs towards the sky. If it doesn't feel good for you to do this, if it's too much strain on your low back, forget it. It's not worth it. It can be a nice release. All right. So once we have our legs up, just take a few moments and point and flex the feet. And then rotate the ankles in one direction and in the other direction. And then just bring them to a stillness and breathe. Good. Last couple of breaths here with our legs up. Now, if you have your legs up against the wall, bend them and roll over to one side to gently come out of this. Use your hands to push yourself up. And then make your way back onto your mat. If you're just on your mat, not up against the wall, bend the knees into your chest. Hug the knees into the chest just for a moment. And then bring the soles of the feet to the earth. And if you have that block underneath your sacrum, move it out just for a second, but don't move it too far because we might want to use this again in a second. Okay. So bring the heels close enough into your groin that you can just brush the heels with the backs of the heels with the tips of your fingers. Knees and feet are about hips width apart. We're going to take a supported bridge. So you can just do a regular bridge pose too, but if you want to take a supported bridge, grab your block and notice that there are 3 heights to this block: lower, medium, highest. I like to start out with the lowest height so I can adjust up if needed, and it has the most surface area, so it's the most stable. Okay, so take an inhale, and on your exhale, press the feet into the earth so your hips rise, and then you can take that block and shift it again underneath that bony part, that sacrum, either lowest height. I'm actually going to go middle height for me today. And then rest it on top. Hands rest by your sides, palms face up. You can also bring those arms out wide, palms facing up if that feels good. taking a supported bridge. A gentle back bend. You can take a moment and snuggle the shoulder blades underneath you. And breathe. Okay. So, to come out of this, bring your hands back in long towards the body if they were out, pressing the backs of your upper arms and your feet into the mat. Lift your hips just enough so you can get the block out from underneath, and then roll down one vertebrae at a time from the top of your spine down. And then once your pelvis is on the mat, just rest here for a second. Let the spine neutralize from that back bend we just took. And then step your feet as wide as your mat. Let the knees bend in towards each other and touch. And lift your arms above your head and grab opposite elbow. Letting everything rest and relax. So for our last few moments of class, you have a choice, as always this evening, to spend your last few moments in meditation or in a rest pose. So if you'd like to take a traditional rest pose, go ahead and bring your legs long on the mat, toes spilling out to the sides, and then arms follow, arms resting long at your sides, palms face up. Just take a moment to move the head back and forth until it finds the resting place it wants to take. Now, if you prefer to take a meditation for the last part of class, you can roll over onto one side and gently use your hands to press yourself up to a seated position. You can grab your blanket or your block if it felt nice to sit up on something. And with the minimum of movement coming into your easy sit, palms resting face down on knees or thighs. And wherever you've chosen to be for our last moment or so of class, taking a deep breath in, open the mouth, sigh it out. And then take rest. If you are lying back on your mat, take a moment to take a deep inhale and start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Wake the body back up. And in your own time, roll over onto one side. And gently press yourself up to a seat. Eyes can stay gently closed. And when you arrive at your seat, everyone can bring palms together in front of the heart, thumb touching the breastbone. Thank you so much for practicing with me this evening. Bow your head, drop your hands, gently blink your eyes open, and come on back. All right. Thank you everyone for joining me again this evening. I look forward to practicing with you again in a couple of weeks. Have a great night.